May the force be with you is a phrase used to wish a person well to overcome a challenge. The invitation in this podcast, May the life force be with you, is to explore what it means to truly feel alive, to appreciate the physical, emotional and spiritual connection to our energy, and finally to understand how this impacts who you are and all that you do. May this conversation inspire you to thrive.
Alive is an online course that helps you to reveal, meet and heal the patterns that cause you to lose your most precious resource, your life force energy. So if you're tired of feeling tired, visit starlight-temple.com/alive and use the code podcast to get a half-price discount on this process that aligns you into aliveness.
Hello, and welcome to May the Life Force Be With You. How are you, Kahreela?
I'm full of life force energy, which is surprising given the craziness of the weekend that I'm having. How are you?
I am good. I am about to leave Australia. This is my last full day here, so my nearly 4 months is about to come to an end.
And how do you feel about that?
It's interesting because the last week or so has been really interesting. I feel like I'm not coming back the same person. My read previous episodes, my unnormal life, my DNA upgrade, my quantum biophysics planing, my spending lots of time with people that I really love dearly and doing things in a different order because I'm literally on a different time zone, and being around family, friends, dogs, cats, just life force of a different type, I think really has profoundly shifted something in me. So in the last week, I have felt like my mind is starting to return back to the UK, in that I'm feeling quite emotional, that I've been thinking about what life looks like when I return. The practicalities of working out all the hours and time zones again, and everybody that I work with lives in either the US or New Zealand, so I don't work with anybody apart from you, and you're leaving me. Later, I don't work with anybody that's in the same country as me, so I'm constantly the odd one out, and trying to organize my time is really it's a whole job in itself. And so my mind has been thinking about what does life look like in my new routine, because it's not 9 to 5, it's completely different. But my body is still very present in here, and my heart is still here. And I still want to be super present and mindful and in the moment for the people that I do meet, and still I'm just going to spend time with, and not throw away the time that I have here because I've already transitioned back home. Do you know what I mean? So I've been feeling like I'm almost kind of having to have dual headspace for what's coming, but I still want to be super present here because, like today, for example, it's Easter, and I'm spending beautiful afternoon in this amazing restaurant on the beach in the Northern Shores in Northern Beaches in Sydney. And there's 7 of us going out for lunch, and I can't wait to see everybody. It's going to be amazing. And then tomorrow I'm having lunch and a walk with a really good friend that I used to work with, and she's taking me to the airport. And it's just like, I've still got so much life force to take from being here, and just because it's my penultimate day doesn't mean to say I have to, I think we throw away those moments quite a lot by not being present. And I think we go, oh well, this is happening tomorrow, so we already are there in our minds, and
you start leaving before you've left.
Yeah, exactly. There's a smarter, shorter way of saying what I'm rambling on about. So that's how I felt last week. But at the same time, I'm excited and curious about what it's going to feel like to walk through my flat for the first time again in 4 months, and to return, because I feel like everyone's changed around me. Everybody changes all the time, right? So I'm not returning to the same environment that I left. I'm not the same as what I left. Everything is constantly changing. The vibrations are different. Like everything has changed. So I'm also going back with a curiosity as to what that's going to feel like. And it's really hitting me. I can feel my voice getting tight thinking about it. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be like. I'll let you know,
So
obviously.
does that mean that it doesn't feel like you're coming home?
I don't know. It does and it doesn't. I've obviously want to see my mom. My sister's in Japan right now, so she's not going to be there when I get back. She's in Mount Fuji today.
Mm.
So there's everybody else is still doing their own thing too, and it's made me realize that we all just. I'm so fortunate that I have got connections all over the world because I've lived and worked, and I just kind of I'm the transient one that pops up, says hi, moves on, and maybe that is my unnormal life, is that I'm not fixed anywhere. Home is wherever I am that day. I find routine comforting for me, but I find it easy to slip into whenever I go anywhere. I did a beautiful yoga class. I try and like find things that make me feel grounded wherever I am. Um, so yeah, I'm still unsure. I do love this part of the world. It does speak to me a lot. I do love Australia. Always have. Does it feel like home? No, but then home doesn't feel like home. Scotland's probably still home, but I don't live there. That will always be home. So there's just this, what is home? Discuss,
What
Kahreela.
is home?
You're about to leave home.
Yeah, it's so funny that we're talking about it.
Well, not really.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but like what
Comes
is
around.
home? It's like really interesting because I'm leaving my house and I'm not going to have a home. I'm not going to have a physical home. And whenever I have done that before, but whenever you don't have a physical home, it really opens up that question of like, well, what is home?
Mm-hmm. So,
And
Kahreela, what is home to you?
you know, I I I feel at home on the road. Like I have gypsy blood. And I don't feel at home at home. I feel always contracted when I have a house. And as soon as I'm out on the road, I'm just like, yes. It's like I feel at most at home, I think, in the flow. Um, and so I guess the flow is home to me. The flight, that is where I feel at home. Is like when I'm in transition from one place to another. And so many people find it. I mean, I have to say, like, this weekend was, I was packing my house to move some of the stuff to my friend's Airbnb, some of it to my friend's shed, getting rid of loads of stuff. And I was also packing for Cornwall, Japan, Portugal, Egypt, and Spain. And like, because I'm not gonna be back in Brighton, like, well, I'm back for like one night between Japan and Portugal, and so I'll have to pack for Portugal now. And then Portugal, I'm going straight to Egypt, and then I'm going to, and so there was this like left brain meltdown moment where I was just like, oh my god, I don't know which plug goes where. But at the same time, like my system, my heart, my whole being is so happy. Even in that stress, it's like that stress feels like home to me. Um, does that make sense? As a
100%.
roaming
Well,
soul.
right. It does to me because I think that's why I like the expat life so much. Because there's something nice about being in transit for me. I like the journey.
Mm.
People are like, oh, just get to where you're going. No, no, no. I like to enjoy the whole process of moving and being somewhere that isn't normal to you and routine to you. And so I've always enjoyed that part of travel and being in a different environment and doing things differently and watching other people do things differently and learning from that. And it makes you richer, I believe, in your outlook, in how you see the world, because you realize that you don't have to do things in a certain way, in a certain order, because like there's so many different ways you can live and be, and you really feel that when you immerse yourself in different cultures in different countries.
Absolutely,
So
and I think all the new neural pathways just give you so much energy. Like best way to get a life force here is go somewhere new and just have all of your senses. I mean, actually, this trip I don't think I'm going anywhere new. That's interesting. None of the places I just mentioned are new.
So
Um,
I got to the point where, like, I'm in my height of my professional sort of corporate working days. I used to have like a little list at the start of each year, and I'd try and go 12 new places. It could be cities. It's not, I'm not telling 12
ooh,
new countries, but it could be cities, or just, in the UK, I might go, I want to go to Bristol, or like just something that's like not where you would normally go. And I would keep a track every year of all the new places that I'd visited. And then for quite a while, it was just all the same, because, you get on the work path and you have to go to the same places and visit the same people. And I went years without going anywhere new. And so I try and consciously, like, really appreciate and make note of when I go to a new city, a new environment, a new place that I've never been before, and kind of make note of it. I almost have like my own sort of travel diary
I
that I
love that.
recognize. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think obviously the places I'm going, there will be new things about the places that I'm going. And actually, Osaka's new. I have never been to Osaka before in Japan, so that is
That's what my
new.
sister's been just going. Yeah. Japan is definitely on my list. It's amazing. It looks amazing.
Oh, Japan feels, this will be like all of the places are so interesting as we're having this conversation. Like all of the places I am going are home places to
Hmm.
me. So I
Hmm.
feel like, and you know
Egypt, I know,
what?
is a good place for you. Japan, Portugal, these are all
Japan,
places I know
even
resonate.
like as we're having this conversation, I'm like, they're all home, and I feel like,
You look very
um,
excited.
I feel like I feel it's funny because I moved into this flat in such a mess, so needing to come home to myself. I'd never ever lived on my own before. I'd always lived in a couple. Like I'd never even lived as a flatmate. I'd always lived in a
Wow.
codependent situation. And I was like, I need to live by I am in a mess. It was the start of the Cambo mess. It was the start of like my attachment wound journey. And I was like, I know. And do you know what? It was this, like, we were going into the winter lockdown. And I was like, if I can handle living on my own in the winter lockdown, then I'll be like, I'm either going to kill myself or I'm going to be okay. Do you know what I mean? And so I moved in just knowing that I needed to do this and knowing that I needed to understand what home was for me without anybody else.
So I'll
And
come back to the question, what is home to you? And then we'll come back to the different locations. What did you discover in that time, or that you reflect back on now, that you're moving out?
I feel like I went through a. It's funny. I've been calling this flat a cocoon, and then like a couple of weeks ago, the roof actually fell in. Just like we're in another eclipse window. Apparently that happens. So the roof of my kitchen fell in, and I was like, "It is an actual cocoon!" Like, And so I feel like I went through a what I did. I went through a metamorphosis process. I went through my spiritual name change. I went through an embodiment process very similar to the process of a caterpillar, where I feel like I melted everything that I was in order to reform. And when you ask the question, what is home to me? Home is the root meaning of the word home, which is village.
Village is the root word of the word home.
Yeah. So where your tribe is where your home is. And, you know, I really needed to live on my own, and I really loved living on my own. And it was very, very hard and very powerful. But what I learned was that I couldn't do it without my village. And that my community, through living on my own, my community became more and more important to me. And especially in the moments that were the really hard ones, I was so grateful for my tribe that, you know, I'm thinking of the last time I was ill, and I was so ill in this flat. It was just before the move out, actually. It was the like melting moment. I was so ill. And my friend just was amazing. Like, she kept coming around with like, she knew that I wasn't in a place to like speak, but she just kept bringing food and homemade ginger shots and walking past and making sure that, like, you know, that I had what I needed in order to get through this sweat and this flu. And when I think of the happy times in this house, it's the times that there were people in it. And when I think of the hard times, what got me through was the people that I love. And so home comes from homestead, which means village. And to me, home, the meaning of home is your community. The other thing that...
It's interesting because to me, when you say that, I'm like, that means it can be anywhere, and it can be wherever you are, that you have that around you, which is why when I come to Australia, I can slip into life really easily because I have that existing community, family, friends, routine, support, environment immediately here. So it feels very homely as soon as I arrive because that community exists. And so I guess with you and why you feel at home in those different countries as well is that when you land, you know where the networks are, even if there isn't directly friends you can call on, you know that there's a system to life, there's a community that you understand and you can flow with, and so it feels comfortable. That's what I imagine when you were saying that it can be wherever you are.
Yeah, it's funny because when you were talking about your 4 months, I was like, it sounds like she's talking like about home. Do you know what I mean? Like, because you were talking so much about like the community, and you hadn't asked me that question, so I hadn't landed there, but I just felt the energy of home. And in terms of like, yeah, there's some places where I don't have actual community. But I think when you do land work, which is what most of the reason why I travel is to do land work, you come into this greater community with the guardian. Like, the lands that feel like home to me are the lands that I have worked with, that I have ceremonied with, because ceremony is being in village. with the spirits, with the guards, the guardians, the other thing, when you asked what home is, the other thing I wanted to say was like land. It's where you land. And I feel like ceremony brings you into community, and because ceremony is about being in conversation with the land. And as soon as you start the conversation, then you're not on your own anymore, And I feel like, and actually, funnily enough, the first place I'm going, I mean, this is how mental my life is. So the first place I'm going is St Nectan's Glen in Cornwall, which is a magical waterfall that I don't know if you've been to it, but like
I've never been to Cornwall.
So Cornwall's beautiful. Cornwall's one. You know how in the UK, it's got to be one of your new places.
It has been for some time.
You know how in the UK there is parts of the UK that are sometimes so otherworldly that you're like,
I'm Scottish,
this
I understand.
isn't like this is not England. It's like another land, That's what Cornwall's like. And St Nectan's Glen is a waterfall that when you enter into the path of getting there, you're like you're in fairyland. Like it looks like a fairy tale, like that's how it looks. And that is where the fairy wish from the Fairy Tale in Cairo episode came from.
Mm-hmm.
And fairy plant spirits, they are much more human in their personality than a lot of other spirits. And so they're like, the fairies were like, you need to come and pay us for the wish. And I was like, really? They're like, yep, you need to come and pay us. And I was like, so you're saying that I have to leave my house in Brighton and go all the way to Cornwall to make an offering before I go to Japan? And they're like, yep. But what they're like, my life is so mad. And so I'm like, how am I going to get to Cornwall? Don't have a car, don't have like this is just really annoying. And like literally, it's been amazing because basically like 5 of my friends, I'm like, so I've got to do this thing. And they're like up for it. And so 5 of us are going to Cornwall to pay the fairies for the fairy wish and to just tune in and be magical. And the more I've tuned in about it, the more I realize that actually it's also about so I do quite a lot of my house. Whenever I have a house, I do like a whole ceremonial thing to support and protect my energy. I do a whole house clearing process that is amazing, and it is 100% part of the reason. So this house clearing process allows life force energy to flow through your house, like the life force energy of the earth.
I know people that have done your house clearing course and said that it's transformational.
It literally turns your home into a sacred site in terms of the energy flow. Like it literally causes the house to breathe, and it allows Gaia's life force energy to flow through the house. And rather than living in stagnant energy, you're then living. Stagnant energy does what stagnant water does. You're living in life force energy. And like for the path that I walk, it is not optional, it's essential, because I'm holding so much shadow and so much heaviness. It's essential that my energy is being flushed by the energy of my house. And the last time I didn't have an address, I was like, what am I gonna do without my house supporting me? And at the time, we didn't know where we were going, what we were doing. It was very in the flow. And the message that I got when I asked that question was, you have to go to sacred sites. And everywhere you go, there will be a sacred site, and you need to go and sit in that sacred site and clear your energy, because sacred sites are sacred because the energy flows properly. That's what makes them sacred.
Mm-hmm.
And it honestly happened like everywhere we went to visit my friend in a random village, and there was just a stone circle in the in the field. Like, it was ridiculous how many sacred sites there were. And so I'd kind of presumed that was going to happen again on this time around. And what I realized is that as I was tuning in to this like necessary waterfall trip that is totally against the left brain in terms of getting to Japan, what I realized is that actually, no, I just need to plug into one sacred site, and it's going to be the fairy waterfall. And that's also why the site has called me, and the consciousness of the site has called me, is to anchor in, is to basically make it the energy equivalent of my home, so that I can go off and do all of the work I'm going to do and still have a flow and a support going through me.
So it's interesting because people, might listen to this and go, okay, Kahreela does what fairies tell her to. Right, you are. That sounds normal, but actually, we are all following our intuition, whatever we want to call it, that gut feeling, that inkling, that I'm moved to do something. Today I'm gonna, I've got this idea that then percolates and then becomes something. And I think, for anyone that we might be losing at this point, going, "Oh, you're talking about fairies." If I'm the translator into that kind of other way of thinking, is that just think about how many times you're called to do something on intuition. And sometimes it's under those times of stress where you think there's not a way out, that all of a sudden something comes to you and you follow even if it's, you wake up and you turn left, not right, or you just do something a little bit different that day. That is you following a form of guidance. That is you following your intuition. That's creating a new pattern of safety for yourself, or a new exploration, or just something that calls you to do something. It's just, you're using a terminology that, might not feel understood to a lot of people, but actually we are all doing all the time. Everything that you are describing is just you hear and receive that message with clarity, and you also action that more frequently and appreciate it and bring awareness to it and celebrate it.
But listen,
people do every day.
I fully, I'm sorry, I keep bringing the madness to this podcast with the fairies in particular, actually.
Awesome.
But the first thing I will say is that, yes, there's different names. There's different. Anything that has a name, you can have a conversation with. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what fairies are is they are the plant spirits. They are the consciousness of the plants. Everybody agrees that the plants are alive. We can talk to the plants if we want to talk to the plants. And it might seem like it's mad because we've been very, very conditioned to not do that, even though it's what we did ancestrally for thousands of years.
Hey, I'm looking forward to speaking to Phil, my peace lily, when I get home. I was just thinking about Phil the other day because I need to give my
Exactly. Everybody names their plant.
He's called Phil because I got him the day that Prince Philip died, so he's called Phil after my peace lily. And I was thinking, I wonder how Phil's done in the last 4 months. So yes, I bring
But
madness too.
we give name to plants because we sense their beingness, we sense their consciousness, we sense their aliveness, and yes, I give the old name, the traditional name, because of the way that I work. So the traditional name is fairy, yeah, but like essentially where I'm going is to a place that is full of highly conscious plants that want to be in village and community with me. And that, humans see it. I feel like there's definitely a line between madness and magic, and that line is your grounding cord. But the real madness that's going on the planet right now is not people naming their plants Phil or talking to the fairies. The real madness is poisoning our own water.
Mm-hmm.
And poisoning our own air. And like that world doesn't get to tell me I'm mad, because that world is so isolated and disconnected from, and so self-centered and self-orientated, that it is literally in the madness of poisoning its own self. And to me, anything that brings you into village with the rest of the world, with the water and the air and the plants, and makes the world your home, is a good thing. And I choose to go the old way because our ancestors used to live much more harmoniously, because they listened to what they were in village with the plant spirits and the water spirits, and and when we say spirit, it's like the aliveness, the life force of the other living beings that are not humans on this planet, and they have stuff to say and they have stuff to teach, and actually they do want you to be in village with them. But then you have to have, like for me, it's about having relationship. It's like, it cracks me up that the fairies are like, pay me. Like, what do you mean? But like, that's relationship. That's having a relationship that isn't just take. It is like, actually, no, you scratch my back, I'm going to scratch your back. Like, it's having a symbiotic give and take relationship. And the more you work with land, the more you realize that the other beings want you at their table, but they want you to show up and give as good as you get, and they want to laugh with you, and they want to talk to you. And yes, you don't speak the same language, so you have to speak the language of symbolism and the language of the heart, which is channeling, in order to translate and communicate. But if humans are gonna make Earth home, we have to make the whole of the village home.
Oh my gosh, that really landed so profoundly for me. You had me at, there's a line between madness and magic.
And it is your grounding cord. You gotta stay grounded.
Yeah, I really kind of feel that, and you're right, that line, it's a movable thing. And as you say, what you, when you're truly connected and appreciative of the magic, the madness line definitely shifts to the
But
other.
it is like, I'm not ungrounded. I know. We're going to St. Nectan's Glen 3 times. You have to pay to get into that waterfall.
I
And
was
the
going to ask, what is
instruction.
fairy payment? What do fairies? What's their exchange?
So, um, my experience with fairies is they like sweets,
Cash.
but
Sweets.
but they also like pretty things. I mean, there's a lot of offerings made at St. Nectan's Glen. There's a lot of ribbons and things like that
Flowers.
tied up. But you know what the fairies did for me in Egypt? They're getting gold.
Okay.
They're getting a gold necklace because
Wow.
I am serious about it. Like, I am seriously grateful for what they did for me. And I'm seriously grateful, you know, like the gold to me is like symbolic of um, staying in the golden thread, which is about being in this journey that is so chaotic, staying centered and staying true to my truth and grounding up as well as down. Like, and so, and you know, my guides often say, like, you can make a blessing, and a blessing is like fruit and chocolate, and like that's just a blessing. And that's important because they say that, you know, culturally we used to do a lot of offerings and a lot of blessings, and we have, like, because we've lost that with the like breakdown of the old religions and things like that. It's everything that we, you know, what used to happen is things, offerings were made, blessings were made, they were put on the land. That blessing energy was soaked into the land, and then it becomes part of the food that you eat and the what you breathe, and the what, like, it recycles into the creation. And like, they're like, there's a deficit of blessing energy in creation because humans have stopped blessing. Like, we stopped giving thanks.
Mhm.
We stopped adding blessing to our processes. And like, every time you bless, you add blessed energy into the whole. You know, you add it into the recycling of the great system of creation. It's like a stream of energy, and to your life. But they're like, a true offering is something that is hard to give. It's something that your heart doesn't want to give. And so when you make an offering, you are making something that like is painful for you. You know, like, that's because what you're actually giving is energy. Whenever you make one of these things, you're giving energy. And when it's hard for your heart, you're giving a part of your heart to that place, to that land, to those spirits. And I have seen the power of this. If you actually truly make an offering, you know, that offering is taken much more seriously than if you just lay down a blessing of things you don't care about. It's felt.
That makes sense.
It's felt because these are living beings. They understand how we are. They understand how we feel. And they have powers, you know? So if you call in, if you make an offering, you are calling upon the powers of that place. And you know, I've seen it. I've seen one amazing woman. We got guided once to make this offering. It was actually towards the end of lockdown, and you know, everybody was tuning into what they were meant to offer, and they were in tears because they knew what they had to offer. One amazing woman, she offered her engagement ring,
Wow.
and she says that the marriage, because of it, completely transformed.
Wow. And does all this just go into the waterfall? It goes into the
So that
water.
wasn't at the water. That was a different offering. I
Right.
mean,
But theoretically, you literally leave that behind
yeah. So my
as a
gold. I mean, I'm
gratitude.
always aware of, you know, there's a fine balance between
Hmm.
not polluting, not, you
Yeah.
know, But this is a place where people, where that is very looked after, where nature is looked after. There's certain trees where you can hang things from and things like that. And so my gold will probably hang from a part of a tree where there's lots of other prayers and offerings on it, where there's a village of offerings.
Is it a place where you can take photos? I'd love to see, like, maybe we can share it. You take some for us so we can share it on our Instagram account so people can get a sense of.
We're obviously going to do an episode from St. Nectan's Glen.
Like, get this sense of this literally magical fairy place and the energy and how that translates, because it's so fascinating. Like when you were talking, I just think, I come back to gratitude being such an energy, powerful energy as well. And so your offering of thanks and blessing, gratitude is another word for that. And the more that we find ways to express that in our environment, in our home, in our community, it really has a huge ripple effect on the life force energy around us.
And you don't have to do high ceremony. Like I do high ceremony. If you like, you can just hold your hands over your food and give thanks. Yes. I'm somebody that likes to go, like I've just said, home is not my thing, flow is my thing. So for me, the pull to actually go to the place, like I'm a land worker. So like I want to go to all the lands and all the sacred sites. Like it isn't hassle for me, it's joy for me. But like you don't have to do it like that, and you don't have to call them fairies, and you don't have to do that. I call it the feminine ceremony, the high drama, the high theatre. That's the feminine way. There's so many different ways. Mm-hmm. But what I will share, just very briefly, because we're on the subject of it, is when I was in Egypt last, we did a ceremony in my friend's garden. And the garden used to be a camel yard before she took it over as a community garden. And when we were doing the ceremony, we were guided to connect to what the camels were feeling. Like it was pointed out that camels roam deserts and travel great distances. So to be, even though they weren't mistreated in this yard, to be tied up, like you and me resonate with this. Yeah, to be tied up, even if you're being cared for, is not good for a roaming soul whose home is the roam. Yeah. And what was pointed out to us in this ceremony was that, whatever happens on the land gets trodden into the land. Those feelings, those vibrations, those frequencies. And the thing is, if it gets trodden into the land, if it's a memory in the land, then it gets absorbed up. Because it's not just the water that gets pulled up. We've proven that water holds memory. And then it's absorbed into the plants, and then you eat it. You eat the frustration. You eat the we're eating what was laid down in Flanders fields.
Yeah.
And then once it's eaten, it becomes part of the 3D reality. And so, it's our duty to be doing ceremony that blesses and balances the land if we want to live in a world that is balanced. What we put into the soil, it matters. It becomes part of what manifests. New earth is new earth, new soil. And ceremony can be done in your own way. If fairies don't resonate with you, you don't have to do it in the way that somebody else does it, but every time you make village with the land, you are making new earth. You are meaning that something beautiful and blessed gets to manifest. Because we're part of the village that is co-creating this planet.
And when we do the opposite, we see the results of it as well, and the toxicity and
The madness is not being in village. Like,
yeah.
that's the madness. The madness
Wow.
is thinking that we're not in village.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I really feel everything that you're saying, and there's that collective village responsibility to bring the magic back to the land, to appreciate the magic in the land and the earth. And it flows all the way through, as you say, to what we eat and what we then become and ingest ourselves around that energy that we're taking in from wherever we are at that time. And all the history and all the iterations of that we're absorbing too. So I really feel that, and thank you for sharing that so beautifully, because I'm going to think about where that madness and magic line lies, and it's like a sliding scale. When you were talking, I'm like, why do I want to go over that side to the madness? I want to stay in the magic.
And like,
Oh, it's beautiful.
your village in Brighton is really looking forward to you being home.
I know. It is.
It really is. And I know you're leaving another village. But your village is also the sea of Brighton, and every single one of those stones, and on a very stony beach. Like, the village is obviously the people, but it's also everything that is participating in Brighton. And it's so nuts that you arrive and I go on the same day, hey, but
I know.
But like, your Fiona-shaped hole has been in my life. Like, I'm really happy you're coming back to Brighton, even though I'm not going to be in Brighton. Because it's you also have a village missing you.
Yeah, that's nice. Thank you for that. That'll make my re-entry a little bit easier. And then likewise, you're leaving a Kahreela-shaped hole for me when you depart. So we will obviously keep our conversations and all of our guests' engagement and contributions to this podcast going as we continue to travel in our nomad lives that we normally lead. But this feels like it's been the perfect conversation.
How beautiful is this as well? Like, this conversation is also our village. And so all of the places that we go and all of the people that we connect to and speak to, like, it's like, what am I trying to say? It's like, it's part of the thread of the global village. And at home, for me, I feel like may the life force be with you is part of what is going to be home for me on these adventures that sometimes can be quite lonely, but it's like, this is part of the fluid village, and all of these and it's connecting the life force of all of these lands and all of these homes and people and listeners. And with that, listeners, please share, may the life force be with you. Be part of the village. Spread the village love.
Oh gosh. Well, Kahreela, I need to go and connect with my Sydney village. But thank you for sharing that. You've opened my heart as well as my head up to a different way of thinking about home and connection of where I am. So thank you for that. Genuinely sending lots of love and gratitude your way for that, because I feel really moved by the conversation today. So until the next time, I don't even know where we'll be, but
Cool. Fairyland. So much. Welcome home from your Brighton village as well,
thank
and
you.
may the life force be with you on the long flight from Australia.
Thanks for that, definitely.
And enjoy your last day. So much stuff. We hope this conversation has topped up your life force energy. If it has, then please help us spread the life force. Like, share, subscribe, all of that. And may the life force be with all of us.